Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.
Hello and welcome to Following on Ashes Inquest. I'm Jon Norman. Alongside Steve Harmison, you are watching us on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, or you're listening to us on talkSPORT 2, or possibly you're listening back on the Following on podcast feed. Either way, welcome. And let's get on with things, shall we? Because England have lost the Ashes. No real surprise there. We were kind of expecting it to happen a little bit quicker than it actually did in the end. We've got a lot to talk about. You no doubt know by now that Australia won by 82 runs. And that's it, 3-0 down in 11 days. The shortest time since Nasser Hussain in 2002-03 equalled it. We've had a lot of reaction because Ben Stokes has spoken, Brendan McCullum has spoken, Pat Cummins has spoken, and so has the press pack. Let's just go through a couple of the messages. Ohigo says, that settles that. Bazball is what everyone knew it to be, a cult of vibes and positive affirmations full of T20 cricketers. Kieran says, you won the moral Ashes, but Australia won the actual Ashes. Harshig says, if England are serious about getting to a World Test Championship final, at least in the next cycle, first thing to do is sack Baz. Steve Harmison, you have one job as a coach, as far as I can see, and I'd say that the biggest job of all is making sure your players are prepared. But it turns out they weren't prepared, and the has-beens were right. Good morning to you.
Yeah, I'm one of the has-beens, or as Alan Brazil called me, the never has-been. So, yeah, I mean, I think we all knew where this was going when you looked at the preparation and everything that comes. What I will say is, when it's all said and done, and the fifth test match is finished, and whether it finishes 3-2, 4-1, or what possibly looks like it could be 5-0, what a lot of people will be saying by the end of it will not be smarter after the event, because we've all said it before, what the preparation looks like. I mean, this team has, they've been very, very good to watch. They're a very, very good team. They're a great bunch of lads. We've all been in their close proximity, John, because we've been toured on them with India and with New Zealand and stuff like that. They're a likable bunch, and they're an entertaining bunch to watch. But they have looked down at people at times. There has been an air of arrogance about them. There has been, it's our way and the highway. They've talked down to former players. They've scoffed at former players. They've reinvented the wheel in their eyes when it comes to cricket, because it's changed that much, like the comments just said there about 2020 world. They've had no respect for county cricket, and that's cost them. And they've gone over to Australia and do it our way. We do it the way we've done it for other tours where we've been successful. This is the Ashes. And we're going to hear Brendan McCullum say one thing in a minute. He's going to say, the last 2 days are the best 2 days we've been on this tour. Yes, because day 10 and day 11 are the time when you were ready to start playing cricket. Your team was ready to start playing cricket on day 10 and day 11. And England, halfway through day 11, have lost the Ashes. And I think that's where, when all's said and done, when it comes to this team has not had any consequence, not had any accountability. Rob Key's under pressure because he appointed Brendan McCullum. Rob Key's under pressure because he overseen this whole system. Brendan McCullum, for me, is the one that falls, simply because he's the one, as the coach, who is going to make the system work. He is going to make the preparation meticulously right for an Ashes tour. He's got to make the all singing, all dancing, all bases covered, plan B, plan C, plan D. And England go to Adelaide, day 11 of the test match, for 9 days looking like rabbits in headlights. And for me, that's why he is probably the one that falls. Ben Stokes, it's up to him, because I think he has been one of the only shining lights. And he's pushed his body to a limit where, if this was a real contest, we'd all been, it was 2-1, 1-1, going into Boxing Day and New Year's Day, we'd be massively concerned about our captain's body, because he's pushed it to the limits, because we've all been underprepared. technically we've not been good enough, and physically, because we've been underprepared, our bodies are at the limit as well. And unfortunately, the captain's bearing the brunt of having to bowl far too many overs, and the way he had to bat in the heat in the last couple of days, I think has put a lot of strain on his body. So that's my initial overview of what's just happened over the course of this last 10 or 11 days.
Let's hear from the coach of England, Brendan McCullum.
No, we weren't able to deal with it again. That's something we're going to have to look at and say, what did we get right? Sorry, Joe. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? Probably go back to the preparation as well. I know that that'll be something that's questioned. And when you've lost 3-0, you've got to put your hand up and say, maybe I didn't get that preparation right. And that's not just leading into the first game, but we probably did. Could we have done more leading into game one, and could we have done less leading into game two? It's trying to work out those things, and ultimately, you're responsible for that. You put your hand up and say, I didn't get that right because we've lost 3-0. So, there's lots to digest. There's lots to look through and work out what you need to do to be better next time. But we do have a great opportunity in the next 2 tests, and that's the message to the boys, right? What we say externally and what we say within the dressing room is clearly going to differ at times too. We need to find something out of this tour. We need to salvage some pride and play for all the people that have come down to Australia and supported this team, and play for all the people who are back home in England supporting this team as well. And if we can do that, then we walk away with a bit of pride.
I can't hear John. He's going to have to start that one again. I can't hear John. Well, I look at McCullum and listening to what Brendan's saying there, preparation. Did we do enough into day one? Did we not do enough into day two? When I look at this, John, you want to carry on going about, what people were saying into it. You've got, I can hear you now. So
yeah. So the point I was making is it's too simplistic just to land all this on Brendan McCullum's shoulders. Okay. But it's also simplistic to think that he's the man to turn it around. I think one of the problems that England have had over the last 4 years is that they have actively discouraged any other way of looking at things. Now, I'm not suggesting that in their quieter moments, they don't reflect and talk about where it's gone wrong. I don't doubt that after the defeat at the Gabba and at Perth, Brendan and Ben and probably Rob didn't speak about, maybe we should have brought Liam Dawson or Jack Leach, right? Or maybe they discussed the fact that, if in his quieter moments, I think all three of them regret not forcing Jacob Bethel into this side earlier. They won't say it, but I think that they probably always wanted Bethel in. And right at the end, they just buckled because they were worried about the message it was sent to the dressing room, the fact that it would have been really difficult and harsh on a very likeable figure like Ollie Pope. But they won't say these things, okay? So I think that there is introspection. But I also feel there needs to be somebody in there that is disagreeing, that is saying, no, I have more experience than you in certain areas, and these are the players you should be bringing into this team because I watch county cricket and I value it, and I think that these players may not play with a strike rate of 70 or 80 or 90, but they will score runs and or take wickets. And that's the currency of cricket at the end of the day. The other thing is, it's under Brendan McCullum that this team has stopped using, and I'm paraphrasing George here, George DeBan, the cricketer. It's under Brendan McCullum that this team has stopped using specialist coaches. Okay, it's under Brendan McCullum that this team thought the preparation was adequate. And it's under Brendan McCullum that this team have essentially eschewed technique in favour of mentality. I don't see how it can be Brendan McCullum that rose back on all of that Does he rehire the coaches? Does he rehire the stats person? Does he rehire the conditioning coaches? Does he change the mentality? I don't think he can. I don't think that's even possible. And if he isn't that person, then I do think that possibly we should be talking about change at the top.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. You've covered a hell of a lot there to come back at. The sort of losing as many staff, as in you saying the specialist coaches. That was McCullum. That's Brendan McCullum. Didn't want to clutter. He lost. You have nutritionists. He lost an extra coach. He lost a fielding coach. He lost all these people. Right. So if you want to look at that, that's McCullum. I look at. He's got Southey. Well, he had Southey. He had Jeetan Patel. He's got Trez. He's got David Saker. David Saker's just come on board literally from that first test match. Now, Trez wasn't there in 2000. Well, he went home 6-7. He was there 0-2-3. Jeetan Patel came out, and I'm not throwing Jeets under the bus or Trez because what they did on days 3 and 4 this test match.
Yeah, but they have to do that. They've got no choice.
They have to do that. But what they're saying is we shouldn't be taking any notice of it properly. Because at the end of the day, they're another ones that have been brainwashed by Brendan McCullum. But Jeetan Patel and Marcus Trescothick, Jeetan Patel's more or less saying it's not the biggest series, when McCullum said beforehand it was the biggest series of our lives. We have got people in power who possibly don't understand what the Ashes is. It does, but the rest of them don't. So they don't know what it's like to prepare. They don't know what it's like to get the stuff off the field that is going to be thrown at the players.
Yeah, but Harmy.
Yeah, I know, but let me finish. So they are little things there that I think what you're saying is 100% right. Who is saying, no, mate, you've got no idea. Yeah. And I hate to sort of keep going on back to sort of 2 or 3 years ago. You had Mo Bobat at the time when I went for a selector's job. You had Mo Bobat and David Court were in the interview, and the questions they asked me and pushed me on. I tell you what, I didn't have a great deal of respect for somebody like Mo Bobat before. I had a huge amount of respect after the interview because what he was asking me, what he was talking about, how he was looking at things, I was like, I've got this wrong here. I think they've got it right. They're going in the right direction. All the technology they had, all the scouting system they've got. I thought, you know what? I might be wrong here. My mouthpiece is going too far. I got told one of the reasons I didn't get the job was because they didn't want anybody to challenge the captain or the coach. I was like, hold on, surely that's good to have discussions. Alex Stewart, great man, pulled out the day before, not realising, I didn't realise that until I got that question, and then I realised that's why he probably would have pulled out. Now, if the captain and the coach aren't getting questioned, the director of cricket is standing above all this, and you've got performance director who probably is another yes man, and your selection panel is another yes man, what you find is you get 16 people go on tour, 3 of them are dodgy bodies. You can say whatever you want about Jacob Bethel, but they did that, what you're saying about Jacob, we did that to Shoaib Bashir anyway. All that coming to the melting pot is who is saying, have we thought about this? Where's our plan B? That's not right. He's not performing. We shouldn't be taking him. We need another spinner. We need some experience if Shoaib Bashir goes round the park in the first test match. Somebody to potentially bat at number 8. Where's our spare opener if Ollie Pope or Zach Crawley doesn't perform? Because bear in mind, Ben Duckett was probably one of the best opening batters in world cricket leading into this Ashes. So he's fallen off a cliff. All these conversations that you're saying, that's what should have been happening. But if you've got a performance director who's a yes man, if you've got selectors who are yes men, if you've got the system that's coming into it who's got no interest in county cricket are yes men, and Brendan McCullum's at the top and everybody's following his playbook, like, running towards the danger, going harder, all these things that we are technically not good enough to do and we are underprepared. Ben Stokes said it's execution. Well, what happens, the reason why execution's not right is because technically you're not ready. You're not prepared. You've not sort of battle ready and battle hardened. Where's the conversations with the likes of Andrew Strauss and Andy Flower, who came over here and won? And Ben Stokes might say that was 10, 15, 20 years ago. But when it comes to getting ready for that first test match, the preparation is exactly the same. You have to be battle hardened. Your body's got to be up to it. You've got to be as physically and mentally as fit and sharp and ready to hit that first ball, and the challenge has got to be there. Because if not, what'll happen? You'll not get ready till the day 10 or day 11. What's happened? Day 10, day 11, we've lost the Ashes.
You know what, Harmy? All of that I agree with, by the way. I'm not going to disagree with that. Apart from the fact that they didn't actually go at Australia, did they?
No.
They changed their tactics. And that was the moment when I just thought, we really are in trouble here. Because I kind of would have got it. To a point, I would have been furious, and, we would have been talking about tactical naivety and all the rest of it if England had really thrown everything at Australia and fallen in a heap. But at least it would have been what they'd said they were going to do and had been trying to do. Pat Cummins, listen to this. They seem to have changed their style quite a bit game to game, Cummins said. I think that can happen in overseas conditions. You're always trying to fight for a method that works. You're trying to find a method that works. Now, I thought that we had a method. No. All I've heard for the last three and a half years is about the method. Doesn't matter about results. It's about the entertaining. It's about bringing in new fans. It's about protecting Test cricket. We were in New Zealand when England lost against New Zealand, and they celebrated that fact to a point. And we were with them on that journey because it was a terrific Test match. And it doesn't really matter if you lose in New Zealand, does it? But there were a lot of people at that time who saw that game and the way they went about it, and they were furious, and they thought it was a huge mistake. And you know what? Looking back, I think they probably were right. He goes on to say, this is it. Pat Cummins, because the point I'm making is they changed tack. After Perth, Stokes came out. And this is where, for all of the... So McCullum has come out, right? And he has held his hands up and said, I got this wrong. And I respect him for saying that.
I do as well.
Okay? It takes a big person so soon after a result to come out and admit they got something wrong, especially when the whole team has been going around laughing in the face of people who dared suggest that 2 weeks playing golf and having a drink in New Zealand wasn't ideal preparation for an Ashes series, right? But he's come out and he said it. I'm really interested to hear Ben Stokes talk about where he got things wrong, because all I've got from Stokes is my players didn't march with me. My players weren't with me. No country for weak men. All this kind of stuff. But then when I've watched Stokes, I've seen baffling field placements for a lot of the bowlers. I've seen him go on the go slow when batting, which completely flies in the face of everything we've heard about. And he leads from the front and he puts his body on the line. Maximum respect for a guy that is essentially taking years off of his career and lessening his earning capacity, and is willing time and time again to go where it hurts. I totally respect that. I wouldn't do it. He does it. And that is phenomenal. But, Harmy, Pat Cummins specifically highlighted England's approach on the second day of the third test in Adelaide, as I did at the top of the show when I said to you, is this the day Bazball's dead? Because I just watched England bat at 2.5 and over all day in 41-degree heat. Okay? They added 154 for 5 in 54 overs across the final 2 sessions in sweltering temperatures. Stokes himself batted particularly defensively, this is from Cricinfo, finishing unbeaten on 45 off 151 balls. And then he couldn't bowl the next day, before accelerating on the third morning when it was cooler. Day 2 I thought was surprising. It was 40, this is Cummins. Day 2 I thought was surprising. It was 40-odd degrees. It was hot. It was a very flat wicket. And they just shut up shop there for half of the day. Like they did Jackson Stokes in Brisbane, when I was critical of that. When everybody else was saying, they batted through the session. Which I was pretty happy with. Who knows? I'm sure they'll talk about it and come at us with different plans for Melbourne and Sydney. I'm glad that we've been able to stick to our guns and play the way we play. And it's worked. And so this is the thing. I want to hear. Is Stokes self-critical about the way he's captained this side? Because I haven't actually heard that from him.
No, we haven't. Well, we haven't really heard Ben speak in depth as what we've had from Pat there. So I think we'll get that in the course of time. I think, and I'll be interested. Rewind a couple of months ago, John, when I sat across from Andrew Flintoff and a book came out, and Andrew tells his story. And we might have to wait till Ben because Ben's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He's looking after his team. What I will say with this is, I wonder where and I always talk about these types of moments when the lights are off and the door is closed and you're lying there and there's only you in your head and you in your room. I wonder if Stokes is thinking, what on earth have my team been doing? What on earth have I been doing? What on earth where have we been from a preparation point of view? Because our batters look completely different to what they've been for the last 3.5 years. Our bowlers are nowhere near ready to take on a 5-match Ashes series. Stokes himself might think, and to be fair, he looked as fit as he's been for a long time. And he's having to go through. He's bowled more overs than he probably wanted to bowl. The batting in the sweltering heat, he's probably telling his own body's telling him, going, we can't be bowling again tonight. So that's why he went. I still think that's why he went on the go slow. We can't be bowling again tonight because that'll finish me off. It'll finish Jofra off. You look at the first class overs from the last Test match against India to the first Test match against Australia, which was 4 months away, and only Gus Atkinson had bowled a first class over. All these things come into the melting pot of what you're trying to say is, where has this big sort of arrogant bravado, come at you at all costs, we're going to be in your face, aggressive cricket? And like I said before, when it comes to the Ashes preparation, this is a different animal. This is a different beast. And you get into the cauldron of Ashes pressure of big grounds, huge stadiums, all wanting sort of beer and blood. And if you're not prepared, technically, physically, and mentally, what you do is, unfortunately, you revert back to look after me, Jack, and you go back into your shell. So when me and Jared Kimber are having an argument on YouTube about a month ago, and me saying, and wrongly saying, I think this will be Australia, this will be England's baseball going and doing what Australians have done for years. They're going to be in your face. They're going to be very aggressive. They're going to take Australia on. Well, it's fallen apart because I don't think England's batters were technically ready for it. I don't think England's bowlers were technically ready for it. I don't think England as a unit were physically and mentally ready for it. And I think when that first test come, they were a rabbit in the headlights and they've gone straight back into their shells. And that, for me, would be the biggest disappointment from Ben Stokes' point of view, because they are things that we've tried to produce as a group and a team. And all of a sudden, we've bottled it under pressure. And I think that will probably hurt Ben more than anything else, but he'll never, ever see it.
So what do England do, Harmy? I mean, England's record in Australia is so woeful. Where do you even begin? Was it 16 defeats out of 18? And one of those draws was on a pitch so flat it was rated poor by the ICC. And the other one was rain affected. I mean, how can they be so bad in Australia over such a long period of time? It almost defies belief.
It does. And you talk about when things are going wrong, you go back to basics. And what's the basic fundamentals of the game of cricket? And that is, especially in Test match cricket, is trying to put a ball in the right area for long periods of time and creating some pressure. We haven't done that. I mean, Brydon Carse, bless him, he's got five wickets more than anybody else. But he's going at 6 and 7 and over in passages of play and releasing pressure. England might have to just go back to, right, Ben Stokes has got to look around the room and go, right, who is going to be able to hold this game for me with a ball? So it might be Gus Atkinson, it might be Potts, and go away from what it is that we thought it was going to do to win in England, which is, fast bowlers and blow them away. The interesting one for me is Will Jacks. Where does he fit into this? because there'll be a clamour for, you've got to bring Shoaib Bashir back into. But other than Stokes, Archer, Root when in Test match 2, I mean, Will Jacks has showed some guts, some determination and fight to not only sort of keep his place, but to give England the best chance every time he's sort of been in the game. And I feel for him because of what, he's getting a little bit stick because he's not a frontline bowler. But he's faced 30 balls again today. Faced 90-odd balls yesterday. Last week, we got top 3 top 3, top 5, top 6, whatever you want, who have not been able to put value on their wickets at large times. So where to go? Unfortunately, you have to try and do the basics well for long enough. And England aren't doing the basics well for long enough. And that is where you potentially got to try and sit down and say, right, we're going to have to try and play some battle-hardened cricket, which is basically value your wicket, play for your off stump, and go back to what the has-beens used to do and try and give yourself some confidence and get yourself in a position to affect the game in a more aggressive manner by just basically hanging around for longer with a bat and with a ball. I mean, challenge the off stump and work from there. I mean, that's it. That would be the simple thing for me from a bowling point of view. But can you challenge the off stump for long periods of time and work from there? If you get the confidence and you start moving the ball around a bit, then fair enough. Go for whatever your instinct's telling you. But don't go for that when you're going at 6 and 7 and over and the horse is bolted. Scott Boland has bowled with a keeper standing up for about 60% of his overs bowled this series, and he's bowled to the top of the stumps.
Well, I tell you what, England's batters tried to do that, and it didn't work. And England's bowlers can't do that. Josh Tongue can't do that. Bryden Cast can't do that. Ben Stokes can't do that. Jofra Archer can. Gus Atkinson can. And so can Matt Potts.
There's your attack.
There is your attack. Gareth Hamill, 1946, says, Pommies used to be humble and fought hard with guys like Beefy. They liked to fight. Then you didn't. Then you became scared. Now you're arrogant and need to have a good look at yourselves. Well, we've got another half an hour of that. You are watching or listening to Following on Ash's Inquest on talkSPORT 2 or the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel.
Hitting you for 6 with top order cricket conversation. Following on Ash's Inquest on talkSPORT 2. Hitting you for six with top order cricket conversation. Following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.
This is following on Ashes Inquest. I'm Jon Norman alongside Steve Harmison, looking back at England's 82-run defeat in the third Ashes Test at Adelaide, meaning they're 3-0 down with 2 to play, and we've only had 11 days of Test cricket. Daniel Cherney from Code Sports joins us now. Daniel, did you, at the start of the series, did you ever think it was going to be quite as easy as this, and that England would be presenting you with so many freebies and gifts in the lead up to Christmas?
Probably not quite this easy. Look, having said that, I did predict 4-1, although that was pre-Josh Hazlewood's injury, and I thought once Hazlewood went down, that was going to make things quite a bit more difficult for Australia. But as it proved, it wasn't really. And probably today and the last couple of days are probably about as hard as it got for Australia. And look, not to say there were some moments today, today being Sunday here in Australia, where I thought maybe England could get it done, particularly once Nathan Lyon went down and Mitchell Stark was looking a bit sore, and we know Pat Cummins is obviously coming back on the back of very little cricket, and clearly still a bit of an injury cloud there, or at least sort of a durability cloud. But it was probably just a few too many runs for England to get 82 as it proved. So yeah, it is a bit flattening, even from an Australian perspective. Well, certainly from a journalist perspective, that it's over again 3-0. It's what 7 Test series in Australian soil, Ashes series in Australian soil this century, and 6 of them have been 3-0 after 3 tests. It's one of the more one-sided contests in world sport, I dare say.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the aspect of England's display, the batting, the bowling, the fielding, or the captaincy, or the coaching, that dismayed you the most in regard to this being a competitive Ashes series?
Look, I mean, you're right, John. There are a lot of contenders there. It is hard to pinpoint one. I think Ben Stokes, to his credit, acknowledged subsequently that that really England has been outplayed in all 3 facets. It'd be that catching, catching, batting, and bowling. Let me get my thoughts straight there. I think actually more than anything, it was the bowling. They're just so short and wide. I think particularly when you look at how good the bowling can be, and we saw that in Perth on that first day, and you see that the ceiling of the bowling, and then for it just to be so abject for so long after that, it wasn't to say that it was terrible exclusively, and I think Jofra Archer at times showed his best, and at times Ben Stokes did, but overall it was just a pretty middling bowling performance. And Bryden Cast clearly can take some wicket balls, but just goes for so many runs otherwise. I thought Josh Tongue was okay. Gus Atkinson was a disappointment for the most part. Unfortunately, we didn't see the most of Mark Wood, but that's also to let the fielding off the hook and the batting. So it's pretty close there. All 3 were disappointing, it has to be said.
Dan, you've sort of covered the batting and bowling disciplines and stuff like that. Me and John have just been speaking about a second ago. Have the Australian media and the Australian public been surprised at the sort of non-showing of teeth that England were coming with, and the aggression and the sledging? Because I was of the opinion that, and I wrote with obviously Robert Crash Craddock, that I think England are going to come to Australia and be more Australian than any England team have come before. Get in your face, have a go at you, and you're going to hear a little bit to chirp here and a little bit to chirp there. It's not Pat Cummins' way, but it has been England's way. There's been nothing.
Yeah, I think you're right, Harmy. I think one of the things about, for all the sort of mirth, and Australians have been sort of potting Bazball and the like ahead of this series, I think deep down there was a sort of sense that Australians didn't mind a bit of the get up and go about it, and the fact that they would get in your face, and obviously an aggressive type of play, which I think Australians broadly admire, not too stodgy and not sort of too conservative like we have seen from England teams in the past. And there were parts of Australia which were probably a bit more England-like leading into the series. At least that was the narrative. But it didn't eventuate that way, clearly. In fact, look, and she is clearly biased given she's married to one of the players, but Elisa Healy, Australia's women's captain who was commentating on the series for Fox, she noted that, listening into the stump mic, obviously as a wicketkeeper, she's got a good sense of these things, and she's, not shy of a word herself over the years. She sort of noted that England were very quiet, and I think they tried to get up a bit more in that third test, but it just overall, and we saw it obviously with Jofra Archer and Steve Smith, and that brief moment in Sydney and Brisbane. It was a bit of a shame, I suppose, that Steve didn't play this game, because I think maybe that would have galvanised England a bit. I'm sure they prefer Steve Smith not playing, having said that. But yeah, no, look, overall, it was a quiet England team, and they have gone down with a whimper. Without a whimper, it's a shame.
I tell you what, though, for all of the talk of a close series and possibly England winning, Australia have bowled phenomenally well. They bowled as a team. They've got bags of experience. They're skill-based bowlers. They have been phenomenal. But, once again, as we head to Melbourne, it looks like you're going to be without some key individuals. England haven't been able to capitalise on that in the first 3 Test matches. Nathan Lyon, I doubt we'll see him again this series. Pat Cummins, we might see him in Sydney, but he's ruled himself out of Melbourne. As you mentioned, Mitchell Starc, he's bowled 3 Test matches. He's given it his all, and he was looking like he was clinging on a bit towards the back end. Then you have to throw in the fact that, of course, within the batting, Steve Smith hasn't definitely recovered from the vertigo that he's been suffering. So, Usman Khawaja, of course, with 80 and 40, will probably play now. What changes? How do you think, or how do you see the makeup of the attack or the team for that Boxing Day Test match?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, John. I think maybe that's part of what makes it so probably painful for England, or such a waste for England, because this Australian team was vulnerable without Hazlewood, without Cummins for 2 tests, Nathan Lyon going down, Usman Khawaja going down, Steve Smith going down at various points, the fact that there were 2 debutants in Perth. That sort of answered the direct question. I think, Nathan Lyon, I think he's on crutches as they celebrated the win with the team song on Adelaide Oval about an hour ago. So, he's not going to be playing. There's 3 main spin candidates, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went for any of them. It's quite an even spread there between Todd Murphy, who we did see in that 23 Ashes series, has played a bit of Test cricket for Australia, still only a young player at 24 or 25 from Victoria. The off-spinner, Corey Roccacioli, who's another off-spinner from Western Australia, probably the most like-for-like with Nathan Lyon, just in terms of the overspin and the bounce that he's able to extract. He's had a very good Sheffield Shield record in recent seasons, albeit Murphy was picked for Australia A ahead of him in that recent match against the England Lions. So I'd say Murphy, if they went for an off, he would probably be ahead. And the other one is Matt Kuhneman, who's also played a bit of Test cricket for Australia and done very well in Asian conditions, yet to play a Test outside of Asia. And his record in the Shield is probably not quite as strong as the other 2, but he is centrally contracted, so wouldn't be surprised if they went for any of those 3 options. Steve Smith, look, he was pictured having a beer post-match, so I dare say probably wouldn't be drinking if he was still suffering from the effect. Well, maybe that balances it out. Maybe you're feeling dizzy and you have a beer, maybe you suddenly feel like you're straight again, so to speak. So I think, I think he'll probably be right. He was back in the nets, so I dare say he'll be okay. I think Usman Khawaja should and will keep his spot. I don't know that for sure, but I would expect him probably to get the nod over Josh Inglis. I think it'll be Inglis that's squeezed out. Jake Weatherald has been so-so. He obviously had that very good innings in Brisbane and has shown what he can be, but hasn't exactly bettered down his spot. But I dare say they'll back him in. And then in terms of the quicks, Cummins has effectively ruled himself out. I think, look, there'll be being a Victorian, there would be an absolute mutiny if Scott Boland didn't play the Boxing Day Test. So I think they'll back him in despite his workload, and he's a warhorse. And there are 4 or 5 days to get up for it. And Mitchell Starc's a bit the same. He just, despite the fact that he does look uncomfortable, he's had such a good series. I dare say that they'll back him in. I think there's an option potentially that they could look to bring in bring back Michael Neser, even potentially bring in Bo Webster, although he's suddenly getting a squeeze for spots there. And Cameron Green's not playing overly well, but I think it'll be. I don't know for sure. I'd say Murphy for Lyon, Neser for Cummins, and Smith for Inglis. I'd say they were the 3 most likely changes, but there's a few different ways they could go.
Dan, I mean, Steve Smith's got his priorities right. A beer at the end of celebrating winning the Ashes. I mean, vertigo is vertigo, but you've got to celebrate to winning Ashes. I mean, but when you look at, England have come preparation 3.5 years. This has been where it's going. Australia look for the next Ashes. Can you see that bowling attack? Because let's be fair, that's the big difference, the glaring difference for me between the 2 sides. Can you see that bowling attack carrying on towards going back to England and defending them.
2027, yeah. I think Pat Cummins, you certainly can see, as long as he doesn't have any recurrence of this back issue. And clearly, we've seen when he's fit, he remains absolutely world class. Probably, well, maybe Boomer and Rabada are probably, I suppose, the other key contenders there, but you'd say as good as anyone in the world. Look, Mitchell Starc, I think he's getting better. I mean, he's not bowling as many bad balls. For so long, Mitchell Starc, he would spray it a bit, and the good was exceptional, the bad would be a bit vulnerable or leave Australia vulnerable. But you're just seeing less and less of the bad. He's not giving you that 1 or 2 bad balls and over that he might have earlier in his career, and he's managed to master the wobble seam, and he's so indefatigable. Now, I know he's almost 36, and clearly you get to that age and things can turn for the worse pretty quickly. But I wouldn't put it past him. He's retired from T20 international cricket, so he's clearly shown that he wants to prioritise Test cricket and wants to push on as deep as he can. So I think he's a fairly strong chance to get to England in 27, the way he's going. Hazelwood's the worry, I suppose, given his obviously he's missed another summer now, and he just can't seem to stay in the park. A bit like Cummins, when he's fit, no worries, he's as good as ever. But he has obviously had a long run with injuries now, and by then I think he'll be 36, 37, so pushing uphill a bit. Scott Boland will turn 37 in April, so we're talking 38 by the time he gets back to England, if he does. Again, he's had a few little injury niggles in the last couple of years, but he's been pretty durable the last 12 months or so. Obviously, he may have more unfinished business after the way things went for him in 23. I mean, it's a fair way away when you're that age, but you wouldn't put anything past him. And Nathan Lyon, it's funny, he asked me 2 days ago, I thought, look, yep, why not? Go on. But once these soft tissue injuries, which obviously he had at Lords, and again here start to mount, you do have some doubts. Australia's got a massive 15-month period coming up, 18-month period coming up from August. They don't play another test post the Ashes until a couple against Bangladesh in August, but then they got 2 in Bangladesh, 2 at home to Bangladesh, 3 in South Africa, home timer against New Zealand with 4 tests, 5 test tour of India, 150th anniversary test, potentially World Test Championship final, an Ashes tour, a 50 over World Cup, and then the next home summer, all in pretty quick succession. So it's going to be, wham bam for them. So they're going to need some depth. Lyon has spoken for a long time about his keenness to get back to England and India, having never won Test series in either of those, the 2 big countries that Australia obviously tours. So he will try, and I think we've seen this week that his bowling is still there, but it's probably his fitness and the rest, which you're a little bit concerned about. But it may, to a degree, hinge on what happens with whoever replaces him. I mean, if someone can stand up in his absence and give the selectors something else to think about, particularly if they're a bit better an option in the field, which I think is something where you see Nathan Lyon does struggle a bit now, and also his batting is obviously not a major strength. May give them a bit more cause for thought. So, look, and then who knows where Cameron Green's at by that point. He's sort of a little bit nowhere with his Test career at the moment. I was hoping for his sake that he would show a bit more with the ball, and particularly in the absence of Lyon, that he could have played a key role to get Australia the victory. But he only had that one, and it was a good moment to get Harry Brook out in the first innings, but overall not a huge impact with bat or ball across the Test. Look, I suppose it's a bit like we were talking about for this series. It is an ageing team. Uthman Khawaja, highly doubt will be back, but beyond that, it remains to be seen. I mean, who knows? Steve Smith is up in the air, but they will reach a tipping point, and that's why I can see there is an argument for sort of blooding some youth over the next couple of tests, because sooner or later they're going to need these players. And I suppose we've seen that the Sooners already come to a degree because the depth has been tested.
Daniel, thanks so much for your contribution. No doubt we'll speak to you again throughout either the Melbourne or Sydney Test matches. And you can follow Daniel on Code Sports in Australia, the Code Sports app, so check that out. Smoking Man 85 says the English team has massively underestimated the quality of Australia. They prepared as much as they thought they needed to. I think we have all been guilty of underestimating the quality of this Australian team, Harmy.
Yeah, I think we have a little bit, but I think we've also been a bit blasé, and as much as I think Bazball has brainwashed inside the dressing room, I think it's possibly brainwashed outside the dressing room as well, because I think we possibly believed in our own hype that our players will go over there, show their teeth, walk over, chest out, and take on Australia at their own game, which would be playing aggressively in their face. And the cricket that we've produced was, possibly not as good as some of the teams that, this team has criticised in the build-up towards it.
Let's hear from Ben Stokes. He has been speaking following that 82-run defeat, which meant England lost the Ashes inside 11 days.
When you come to the third game in the series, when you're 2-0 down, knowing you need to win that game, maybe that brings, 5-10% more out of people that they didn't know they had. It's obviously easy to be able to say, well, why wasn't that shown in the first two games? But I think some individuals have probably actually learned a lot more about themselves throughout this week than they did maybe a week or two ago. There is a lot of positives to be able to take out of this game, and for us to be able to build on and take forward not only into the two games made in the series, but also think how our cricket looks in the future. We had guys going out there in some pretty high pressure moments, and I thought they stood up very, very well. I think some individuals have, as I said, they've learnt a bit more about themselves this week, but it's obviously hard when to look at it with too much positivity at the moment, because obviously there's a lot of emotion to attach with what's just gone on and where we are. But I'll take the positives out of some of the things that I've seen this week. The responses that we showed as a team when we were up against it, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's not really believing that, is he? And I again, as I said earlier, I'd like to hear what Ben Stokes believes he should have done differently with bat, ball, or as a captain. But
bat, ball, captain. That's the captain bit is the one, because I think the hardest part about probably being a leader is when you look across and you're expecting your decision to be backed up by a performance or a level of performance or a level of sort of attitude, and it's not there, especially when you've backed them for 3.5 years. I think that's what possibly has let Ben down. And I think on them comments, there'll be no surprise to me if the likes of Josh Tong, Will Jacks are playing next week, because I think he's possibly talking about people going into that cauldron under the utmost pressure and handle themselves better than what some of the ones that probably should have handled it better when it comes to the mentality and the pressure and their technical deficiencies. So I think he was talking about Will Jacks there, because fair play to Jacks. You can question his bowling and whether he's good enough, or you can question whether he bats at number 8 or whatever. But that lad he didn't shirk responsibility. He gave everything he possibly had. And you can have a go and say, well, he was not a frontline spin bowler. He's a part-time spin bowler. That kid, for me, tried his very, very best. And he fought tooth and nail with a bat right to the very end. So if I'm picking a team next week, Will Jacks is definitely going to be in it.
Banana Bender says, can an English person do this very, very quickly, because we need to go through your rankings, and also I need you to select a team for the MCG. Banana Bender says, can an English person explain where the confidence of Bazball comes from? They haven't won an Ashes series in Australia in almost 15 years. Actually, I will start the answer. I think we all believed in Plan A when it came to England, but we were always slightly concerned that there wasn't a Plan B. I think Plan A could have worked, but we never saw it. We did see it. We saw it on day one at Perth.
100% right. And in the end of the day, this 3.5 years that has been a roller coaster ride. The problem that we've had, and when we've ever come up against trouble, potentially pressurized situations, it's the Plan B bit that's the problem. Plan A, when Plan A works, we are an unbelievable side. But when somebody works out how to play against Plan A, we replace Plan A by kamikaze Plan A. No Plan B.
Harmy, let's go through the team then. I want you to give your rankings out of 10. We'll start with Zach Crawley.
That for this game?
Yeah.
I think Zach's been very good in that second innings. I thought it was a good innings. I can't give anybody more than 7. They've just lost the Ashes, so I'll probably say 7 for Zach. Ben Duckett.
Five.
4-5 for Ben, 4-5 for Ollie Pope.
Five.
You'd expect a bit more from Joe. Maybe he's a 5 because obviously he got 39 that second innings. Harry Brook, he got 20 and 30. He's in. He should do better than that. Another 5. Ben Stokes, well, I think he will be sort of top of the tree as well. I'll give him a 7 because, again, he's pushed his body to the limits and he looked a broken man at the end.
Yeah,
not only in press conference.
He top scored as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he top scored. So, Jamie Smith. A lot's been made of Jamie Smith, and I really feel sorry for the kid. If you're not, I think he is somebody, I think, when all's said and done and we look back on it, was he conditioned, ready for 5 test matches? He looks a big lad. He looks heavy on his feet. He doesn't look the most vocal. Matt Pryor's had a go at that, and he's right to do that. But if you're not vocal, Geraint Jones didn't say much. Chris Reed didn't say much. He's not Matt Pryor in the sort of buzz around. If that's not in your nature, it's not in your nature. It's like sledging as a fast bowler or any bowler. If you're not good with the chat, don't do it. I feel sorry for Jamie Smith. One thing I will say is this kid is a future for England, and I think we have to stick with him. So, and
as a wicketkeeper,
possibly not as a wicketkeeper, definitely as a batter. But from a wicketkeeper point of view, I still think he does. He dropped a catch. They all drop catches. He dropped a catch.
He doesn't. He doesn't keep for his county. And again,
that's probably possibly the problem. But at the end of the day, we look so much down on county cricket. They don't even play for their counties.
Well, that's true.
You mentioned about the first class over, so it don't really matter on that front. I think we persevere with him in the keeping department.
What's your ranking? Sorry, we're just running out of time.
I'll give him a 7 because the bottom order, they fought like anything. I mean, if the top order could fight the same way as the bottom order, Will Jacks, another one, he tried his utmost best, and I think he pushed his limits. He was as good as he is with the ball, and he was fighting tooth and nail with the bat. I'll give him a sort of 6-7 for him. Cars, again, he got wickets. He got 39 at the end, but it's 6 and 7 and over, so unfortunately, probably a 5. Archer, he got 5 for in the first innings. I think he would be a 7. I think Jofra's given everything he possibly can. And you know what? I think Josh Tongue got better and better. Again, probably not quite the right lengths, but I think by the time, if he's played in Melbourne and played in Sydney, I think, you'll get a good Josh Tongue by the end of it. So he'll give him a 6.
Okay.
But nothing to write home for. The headline act was probably in the second innings, Archer and Stokes for me.
Okay. Team for the MCG, very quickly, just run through the team.
Oh, you know what? I've had it written down here. I mean, for me, unfortunately, Bethel does. I can't find a way of getting him in. I really do, because I want Will Jacks in, but I don't really want Will Jacks to go to number 3. But unfortunately he might have to. Crawley, Duckett, Jacks, Root, Brook, Stokes, Smith, and then, like we said before, go back to basics and see if you can challenge the top of off stump. And I'll go with Potts, Atkinson and Tongue with Bashir. I mean, there's no point flogging Jofra. If Jofra's fit, I'd probably put him in instead of a Tongue or a Potts. But I don't see the point of flogging Jofra. If you want to play him again in Sydney, play him again in Sydney. I don't want to be in a position to have a tired Jofra and then have Ben Stokes having the ball too much, because I want 3 thoroughbreds. Not quite getting 3, I'm getting 2.5, but I know I'm going to get overs out of Potts. I know I'm going to get overs out of Atkinson, and I know I'm going to get a better Josh Tongue. So I'm going to stick with them 3 with Shoaib Bashir, and then, as much as I really want Jacob to bat at number 3, I think I can't pick an England team without Will Jacks. So if Will Jacks is going to be our spinner, Bethel bats 3. If Bashir is going to be our spinner, Jacks has to bat 3, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we'll find out, won't we, on Boxing Day. We'll be back on Following on Ashes Inquest. Have a lovely Christmas, Harmy. Thanks for everything over the last 5 days. At least we've got 5 days. And thanks for joining us on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, or via talkSPORT 2, or on the Following on podcast feed. But for now, thanks for joining us on Following on Ashes Inquest.
Hitting you for 6 with top order cricket conversation. Following on Ashes Inquest on talkSPORT 2.